Welcome to the Health Buzz podcast with Dr. Cindy Ross. Here we explore practical, integrative wellness solutions for the mind, body, and soul, drawing from natural medicine to inspire vibrant health. For more insights, visit lifewellnessforever.com. Please note, this discussion is for educational purposes only, is not intended to diagnose or treat any condition, and should not replace consultation with your physician.
Hi, guys. This is Cindy Ross with the Health Buzz podcast, and I am so excited. I got two of my really good friends, a new friend from the past 2 years. I got guest Jennifer Sukalo, and then my long-term friend from seventh, eighth grade, Amanda Sellers, a criminal defense attorney down in Tampa, Clearwater area. And I'm getting them to join me this morning. We have some great content and I cannot wait to share it. So Amanda, since you're helping me co-host today, why don't you give me a little bit of background about what you do right now, and then just kind of, your passion with health and fitness and life?
So I am a criminal defense attorney, primarily doing federal work now. So I represent individuals who are arrested in the open seas with drugs and lots of fun, interesting stories I can tell. But I won't get too deep in that. But yeah, I mean, these people are very, very poor people, and they're kidnapped sometimes by the cartel and then forced to go on these tiny little boats in the open sea. And then the United States government gets them, and we process them for the next 10 years, basically. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I have a couple of murder cases that are kind of pending and will be going to trial soon. What I found is that my career really started to affect my health. And so the career and then the other things in my life just started slowing me down, even though I didn't want to slow down. I was sort of forced to slow down. And Cindy, kind of we picked up from there. When I lost my hearing, I got in touch with you, and the rest is history. Ever since.
Yeah, I think, what we were saying just the other day, Jennifer, that, COVID was kind of a blessing for a lot of us, and Amanda, especially because she was just in that rat race constantly, and she was forced to slow down, and she lost her hearing over COVID, and it was traumatic, but I think it was also a blessing. And so, yeah, we're your like students here today, Jennifer. So you're like talking to us. So Amanda, I'm so thrilled to have you on with me co-hosting today. And I feel so blessed to be able to have you in my presence, Jennifer. I love your content, and tell our audience just a little bit about your background. And I got to hear about the horses because they're in all your backgrounds. So
I know.
I see your Zooms. I'm like, I got to know about the horses.
Those are all my kids.
Love it.
So, well, I mean, from the horse perspective, I was one of those people. They say that you either are born loving horses or you're not. You're either a horse person or you're not. Well, I came out of the womb loving horses, apparently. I had horse sheets and a little miniature stable, and I had like everything. And yet my parents, we grew up in a military family, so we moved every 2 to 4 years. And my parents used to tell me, I hope your husband helps you choose a nice one because you're not getting one.
I love it.
So I did not actually get horses and finally realized that dream of mine until I was much later in life. And my husband, bless his heart, I keep telling him now, they're cheaper than kids, honey. They don't have college education. There's no wedding. And he's like, I'm not sure that's
I'm
really
not buying that
out,
anymore.
but just keep going with that. That's fine. But no, those are my kids, and they're also my some of my best teachers, I would say too. I've learned so much from them, and I write about them a lot. I talk about them a lot. I bring them into my work a lot because they are amazing teachers.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why there is a thing called horse therapy.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right. But I actually have a background in behavioral change. And I've been working with people in one way or another for the past probably 3 decades, but for the past about 12 years, I was a global leadership consultant. And so I am an instructional designer as well. So I designed experiential learning programs and leadership programs for aspiring leaders all the way up to the C-suite of organizations. And I traveled all over the world. I was really, really blessed and fortunate to be able to work with such amazing people from all walks of life and all different industries and all levels of leadership. And I learned so much about the power of learning and how people learn best. And I really wanted at some point to take all of that and then put it in the hands of people who don't necessarily have access to it. Because not everybody can go to the programs that I was designing unless the company was providing it. So it was one of the things that I always really wanted to do, was to take all of that and put it in the hands of people, make it practical, applicable, and easy. I would say simple, but not easy to do. If that makes sense.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely love it. So you are launching, you got a webinar on this coming, what are we?
Thursday.
It's
Thursday this week, yes.
And so tell us a little bit about that. I have it actually pulled up here too. So, but tell us a little bit about what that entails, and I'm going to be sharing it all on my social media as well for you.
Perfect. No, this one is breaking the cycle. And I don't know if you ladies have found this in your experience, but I noticed it a lot, not only in my own life, but also in my work with other leaders across the globe. There's a very sinister dynamic that happens amongst women in the workplace, and it's competition. We end up competing with one another and kind of, instead of uplifting and supporting one another. And so this particular webinar is really focused on breaking the cycle, how women could overcome competition and learn to thrive together in the workplace. And so that's what I'm focusing on. And we're going to dig a little bit deeper into it, and we're going to uncover some of the root causes of why that takes place, why that dynamic exists, and more importantly, some strategies for what we can do to overcome it and to create better cultures where we truly are uplifting and supporting one another. Because when we elevate one another, we all rise.
The possibilities are endless.
Yes, exactly.
Amanda, did you, because when actually Amanda and I started talking, I guess a couple years ago, because I started doing I helped her with some marketing for her law firm. Did you notice that with your partner at all? Was there any competition?
Absolutely, which is weird, because we're partners, right? So we have the same goal, but I think there's an inherent realization that you want to be better, and if you're with someone who is good, you want to compete with that, but not compete with it. You know what I mean? You want it to lift you. But I think what you're saying too would be really, really good for mommies of children in school, because that's where I see competition that is so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
See, I mean,
fight for the social ladder.
See that. I see, like, I'm part of this like moms group here locally in Orange Beach, but I'm not a mom, and so I'm not in the school system, and so I don't see that. But I get told all the time, be lucky that you're not because it's I guess you're right. I mean, that's what they say. It's competition, and I never really looked at it like that.
Yeah, if we could learn to be better, then we can teach our children, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Exactly. And I think, Amanda, you bring up a really good point where there's elements of competition that I think are really healthy. Where when they talk about in sports all the time, when you play somebody who's better than you, you elevate your own performance. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. What I'm talking about is how do we overcome it when it becomes unproductive and unhealthy? And where is it coming from? And once we understand a little bit more where the root causes really sit and what we can do about it for ourselves, then we can learn to let go of it because we won't need it anymore.
That's such a good.
So that's about what this is. The webinar is coming up this Friday or this Thursday, and I'm super excited about it.
You know, like I'm looking back at my career, and I mean, I've been on my own for so many years. So I haven't worked in the industry with other women. But, you know, when I had Bodies by Cindy, it was predominantly women. And there was, I guess, like 24, 25 of us at the time, all female trainers. I don't know. I don't know if I ever really remember that like type of struggle, but I'm sure at some level, and again, I was boss, so maybe I didn't see it on my level, but I wonder if the girls felt it, you know?
There's always a level of it, and sometimes it's not as overt. It's a lot more subversive, and it's kind of just an undercurrent that's existing. And I think the more we become aware of it, the more we can learn to decide and choose, one, how we want to respond and react to it, and two, what can we do to shift those environments to actually shift the dynamic.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, I'm always like, you know, more women power, the better that we're going to be, right? If women,
Yes.
Because if you can just be kind, I think that it would just, it's going to make everything better. You know, there's no reason for competition. We all have our unique, individual talents to bring to the table.
So without giving it away, can you like, where does it come from? It's here, right? It's within us.
It's within us. Yes, it's within us. And there's, you know, I don't want to give away the secret sauce that we're going to kind of get into on Thursday, but it's when I talk about it, people, the light bulb goes on because it's something we all have. And we've been conditioned in certain ways to actually behave this way. And yet the good news is we have the ability and the power to take charge of our thoughts, our behaviors, and our habits. So we can make choices and move things in a different direction. We don't have to continue to follow the same patterns that become really unhealthy and actually create the environments we're talking about. But you're right, Amanda. It's all starts with us.
It does.
I'd like it to, I think it would be wonderful if there was a way to get this to the younger audience. You know,
that's another thing I'm absolutely focused on. I think if we had an opportunity, especially, I mean, think about this. So when I talk about in my book, Claim Your Swagger, where swagger is actually, and I know you guys might want to get into this later,
I love it.
And I won't go into the details of it, but swagger is actually an acronym. And one of the elements of it is self-worth. And if we think about the impact we could have if we helped younger people, women in particular, have a stronger relationship with their self-worth, do you have any idea the impact that would have? How much you would reduce this, I mean, depression, suicide, you know, the bullying, the cyberbullying, you can get to a point where you can ignore it because you no longer have to be worried about it because you are so much more secure in yourself and you're not seeking that external validation constantly.
Are they teaching what you're doing in schools?
No, I do not believe that they are. And it's one of the things that it's one of the areas that I would love to be able to expand into is getting to a point where I can reach probably people, I would say, if I can get to people in the high school age level, I don't know how much of an impact you can have earlier on, depending on where people are in their own development journeys. But I absolutely think if I could get a hold of some people at that high school level, it can make a huge difference.
I'm thinking back, Amanda, like when you and I were hanging out, like 13, 14 years old, if we would have had that.
Don't tell the bad secret.
She made me smoke a cigarette. I know. I say all the time she was my pusher.
I don't even remember it.
Oh yeah, I was 14.
Isn't it funny how our
Yeah.
memories, we just remember the things. My sister and I are like that too. She goes, "Do you remember the time?" And I go, "No, I do
No.
not have any
I don't
I have
remember
no
that.
recollection of that."
Never happened.
But think about, like, if we would have had just an inkling of this advice
Oh,
back
Yes.
then, I mean,
it's
it would have saved us so much agony.
so much, so much.
Yes. And
No,
so
I
the
mean,
question for me,
I tell a story in my book actually about being bullied when I was younger.
I read
And
that. I remember reading that.
and I don't know where it came from. I think I've always had elements of this because I don't remember ever being taught this per se. I think I've learned it along the way, and that's how I created this whole approach. But I remember thinking to myself that it was their problem, not mine. And once I like let go of some of that, I could just, it didn't bother me anymore. I didn't let it bother me. I made a choice. But I had enough of my own self-worth at that time and that relationship with myself that that's what I think made the biggest difference and enabled me to do that, enabled me to not be worried by it, to not be upset by it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I I just know what I went through in the early teen years. Well, not just that, but boundaries. No one taught me boundaries. And
Mm-mm.
if I would have known boundaries at that age, I would have been a much better partner, wife,
Yeah.
sister, daughter, everything, because I just let everybody just every which way
No,
across
and
my life.
you're right, Cindy, because boundaries, there's a lot of self-worth involved in boundaries. Because we're
Like,
constantly trying to, we think that if we say yes to everything, now this also plays a huge role in the workplace, especially for women, because we are afraid that if we say no to things, that then we're going to be looked at like, oh, she's not capable of going to the next step. She's not
that's right.
capable
right?
of doing these other things. And yet there's an element of knowing who we are, knowing what our limitations are, knowing where we're going to be putting ourselves in the best light to do our best work. There have to be boundaries. And that's if we got better at some of that stuff earlier on in life, as to your point, Cindy, with relationships, but also in the workplace, you could avoid burnout so much more. In the industry I was in with leadership consulting, it was a consulting firm, and I saw so many people burn out. I mean, turnover was rampant in the company because nobody knew how to set their own boundaries. They thought they had to say yes to everything and you work 24/7 and that's what was expected of you. But that's not sustainable. And it's also not when you're doing your best work.
I literally feel like I learned, I mean, I've been learning more boundaries in my 40s, turning 47 this year. I feel like taking a sabbatical, this was like really my first year of boundaries on a professional level. I think personally, I've been learning boundaries well over the last decade. But I mean, that's still sad. I mean, like my 20s and 30s, I didn't have any,
Yeah.
I had no insight into boundaries. And so I think that's exactly what led to my burnout, was because I said yes to everything.
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 Right.
And I never wanted to let anyone down. But then at the end of the day,
You
I
let
was so
yourself down.
burnt out that I was on the phone yesterday with Ralph from Yelp. I'm gonna give him a shout out, Ralph from Yelp. Okay. And so I said, I was so burnt out last year. I came back from Kenya drilling clean water wells. I said, if there would have been a little old lady on the side of the road that needed to cross the street, I don't think I could have helped her up to the other side of the road. I was that burnt out. I had, my tank was empty, and it was all because I didn't say no enough,
Yeah.
at all, at all. And I think as a woman, and I'm not about like, oh, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. Like, I'm going to show you I'm strong. I don't need to tell you that I'm strong. But I do feel like we were kind of programmed to say yes. And it's like we just let down everyone around us, our families, and especially being a mom too. And I'm not in that position, but I see it in my patients that they've given their whole lives away by saying yes, yes, yes. They are left with nothing, nothing at the end, and they're so burnt out. So that's what, when you and I were talking the other day, Jennifer, I'm like, oh my gosh, every one of your programs, it's me. That's exactly, it's me. It's so me. I'm glad I'm not alone in this, you know?
No. See, that's the other thing that I think is really amazing is when we actually open up a little bit and start talking about some of these things, we start to realize that we've all gone through. Now, all of our journeys are different because we're unique and we've had our own experiences. No one's had exactly the same experiences as somebody else. So they're all unique, and yet there's similarities where we can have some camaraderie around some of the same struggles that we've been having. And I think that helps us, to your point, Cindy, feel like we're not alone, but also to go, okay, there's some other people that I can kind of turn to, lean on, and support. That they can be there to support me. They know what I'm feeling. They know what I'm actually going through. And I think just knowing that you're not alone sometimes is a big part of it.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, Amanda, you went through the same thing. I mean, like, I feel like our conversations over the past year, I mean, like, especially, well, not just the past year, the past couple years since COVID, I feel like you've been like really trying to figure out what you and I talked about, Jennifer, the other day. What does our next chapter look like? We've had the career, we've studied our butts off, we've been successful. And where are we at now after the burnout, after all that? What does it look like? What does our second chapter look like? And Amanda, you and I have had so many conversations on this.
Yeah, and how do you make that transition? Because you're still dealing with, okay, wait, I have been very successful. Now, is it okay to slow down? And, how do I live with the guilt of maybe not making that consistent large paycheck, or not being able to do some of the things that I was doing? But then I look back and I'm like, well, was I really able to enjoy those things at the time, because I was so busy and my brain was so occupied with other things?
Right.
So yeah, burnout, it's a thing. And if you don't realize it sooner rather than later, that's when it starts affecting you physically, and you got to call Cindy to fix you.
Completely. Exactly. That's when it starts impacting your health. And sometimes the sad part is I think people wait until it gets to that point. To your point, Amanda, they don't actually start paying attention to the signs and what's happening to them early enough on, and we don't catch it early enough. And I do think that COVID was a blessing in disguise for a lot of people, because it did force people to start questioning, to start reflecting, and to start asking some questions about, wait a minute, is this what I want to continue doing? Like, am I even happy doing this? Can I even define what happiness is for me? And I'm not sure a lot of people have actually done that. We go through the motions, we do what we think we're supposed to do, we follow the pattern that's been set out before us. We study hard, we go whatever direction we are in our career, we succeed, we excel, and then you get to a point and you kind of go, well, is this all there is? And part of the reason for that feeling is people haven't figured out a little bit of their purpose. Because purpose is what helps us feel, one, connected to something bigger than ourselves, and two, it creates that sense of satisfaction and fulfillment in life when we're actually living it. So there's a lot of ways that you can approach this concept of asking yourself questions. Is this all it is? A couple of things you brought up, Amanda, in there are the guilt. Why on earth would we feel guilty for doing what's right for us? But we do.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not I should be making this money, or what's going to happen when I don't. And part of that is how we're judging ourselves, but also how we're worrying about how the world is going to be judging us, because there's elements of people have these shoulds. You should be doing this and you should be doing that. But I don't remember giving anybody else permission to be my should person.
And they're not paying your bills, right?
Right. So, I mean, I just kind of go, wait a minute, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And again, we've been conditioned a lot of our lives to kind of seek that external validation, that external approval. And society has a lot of markers out there that help us, right? That help us sit there and say, oh, now I've achieved this, I'm successful.
Does that help us though?
That's what I'm saying, right? Exactly. That's not necessarily the case, but it's society's out there and these markers are out there and we keep chasing them thinking that's what's going to make us happy.
It's true.
So,
I mean, I'm a testament. I think because I checked every box off at 46 years old, I hit every goal that I ever set forth and beyond for myself. And then I'm sitting here probably more miserable than ever. And because I was so burnt out and not that I was maybe floundering is the word. I was just I didn't have a direction. And it was funny. Now that I decided to specialize in integrative oncology, we're hiking through the woods this weekend. And my husband's like, man, it's really good to see that spark back in you. And I didn't even realize that I had lost it.
yeah.
But it was completely gone and nothing really excited me. And that's not the way that I want to live the second chapter of my life, because I love life. I have so much passion. I want to do so much good and I want to do all these things, but it really is just, and that's the thing. Like I see my practice really ramping up again. And I'm like, okay, yesterday someone asked me to go hiking and I was like, it's a Monday. I don't have time. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going hiking. Because that's where I got myself in last time was I said no to all the things that I wanted to do and yes to everything else. And I didn't even know who I was or what I wanted. Like, what does make Cindy happy? I was doing everything to make everybody else happy. I wasn't even sure who I am. Hence why I cut my hair off, because I was like, that's what makes me happy.
Exactly.
I mean, it was just the little things. And I think as women, we lose ourselves.
We do.
And it's like, it happens gradually. And then by the time that you recognize it, it's just, you're in a place that you can't even
it's overwhelming. You go, where do I go? How do I get
compromised?
Back?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's when you need Jennifer.
That's right.
And that, I mean, Amanda, that's where you were at. I mean, like your health started kind of declining because of it. And, you know, I'm so thankful that I found Vipassana and meditation this year over it, just because I feel like now, no matter what comes my way, I feel like, you know what, I can handle it. I know how to
you have tools now, right? You have tools. You have the ability to go, okay, wait, hang on. Let me go and pause for a moment.
That's right.
And let me reset. And then I can look at this from a different perspective. I don't have to go into overwhelm. I don't have to go into panic mode or survival mode. I can choose to engage with this situation in a different way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I know. I mean, I feel like a completely different person, and I'm almost a year out from when I decided to take the sabbatical. And of course, I still worked during my sabbatical, but just not at the rate that I was going.
Not at the pace and the level you were.
No, not at all. But I feel like a completely different person, and a person that I am ready to really thrive. And
and you have so much more to give now.
I do. I feel like I have so much more to give.
That's
I'm like this. I'm like, okay, I'm really ready to thrive. And now I'm like, let's make some money so I can have money to give back.
Right.
I mean, that's the way my brain works.
Right. No, it's so true. It's so true.
So let me ask you, have you seen a huge shift since COVID with this, like with people really like wanting to refocus their futures in the second chapter?
I have. I think it was one of the biggest catalysts that have caused people to question careers and make career changes and different career choices. Partly because they actually spent some time at home with families, and some people were saying, wow, I didn't realize how much I was missing this and how this really makes a big impact in my life. And I was making choices and maybe not the right ones for me. And I think other people started to question because, again, we rarely take the time to stop and reflect. We are usually moving at that fast pace where we're kind of just move on to the next thing, accomplish a goal, get on to the next one, accomplish something, go on to the next. We're rarely stopping and pausing. How many people do you encounter? And and for me, it's almost everyone I encounter, but how many people do you encounter go, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy.
All the time.
Right?
Everybody.
So we rarely take the time, and it doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to take 5 hours today and reflect. It's building in these reflection opportunities, but COVID forced that on us. Amanda, to your point, it forced you to slow down. It forced us to pause. It forced us to take a look and start to ask questions. And so to your point, Cindy, yes, I've seen a massive shift in people starting to question, oh my gosh, is this what I really want to do? Do I want to continue down this path, or do I want to do something completely different? And I've also had people start to question what's important in my life and what is happiness for me. And I think a lot of people have started to find out for themselves that, or at least pick their head up enough to say, I'm not happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have a choice to make at that point, because you can choose to continue on the path that you're on. And if you're not happy, what are you going to do about it? You can just make that choice and say, no, I'm making this conscious choice to continue this way, or I've got to figure out what I can do to shift it so that I can create happiness for myself.
I love that. You know, when I was teaching meditation in Mexico this year, and this is when I was kind of feeling still alone. I didn't know a lot of me out there, like the burnout. And it was in April, and I got asked to go down for a couple weeks. And I'm there and I'm teaching meditation. And meditation can be very emotional, especially if you get into it. And we were doing a lot of mindfulness. And I was seeing women my age, and in their 50s, and I was seeing them, and they were going through the same exact thing, and they were breaking down on the mat and crying. And you know, I got back home and I was thinking, and I actually did a video about it. And I was like, you know, like you were saying, Jennifer, you don't have to sit for 5 hours and reflect, right? It's about building in those small moments. And
Right.
so, you know how people always like, you know, it's like going on vacation. You don't have to go to some Caribbean island to experience that. It's about putting, you know, having a slow morning, drinking coffee, sitting there, like reading a book, taking 10 minutes out, and it's about implementing it through your day so you have
That's
balance. Right. And I think that like the women that I was encountering, they were, you know, they've been successful, you know, their spouses were, you know, doing their things. And it was just about them trying to find that peace and that happiness. And I'm just, you know, it was a breath of fresh air for me, not their struggles, but just to know that I wasn't alone in trying to find that. And then it was like bells went off that I was like, you know what? It's just about taking little things throughout the day and putting them in. And it doesn't have to be some grand venture of going to a Vipassana thing for 11 days and sit on a mat.
Not thinking everybody can do that, Cindy. I'm pretty sure I don't know
No
that
kidding.
I could, to be honest.
I don't know that I could. I'm so resistant to that. But
Yeah.
Cindy, I remember that video, and it was such a good video. You need to repost that.
I will.
But it's almost as though like the way that we as women approach our career, or you know, our remodel, or whatever we're doing, we can't approach our meditation in the same way because it's not perfect, and we're not going to accomplish perfection doing that.
No,
it's
absolutely
tiny pieces here and there. It can be broken. It can pause. It can continue, but getting in those moments, I agree, are huge. And you taught me that, Cindy, and just doing the 5-minute thing, 5 minutes.
That's it. Well, you know, even coming back from Vipassana, I had these expectations of myself. Like, Okay, because they tell you when you leave there to do an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, and you need to have this structure. And my life is very structured, but I kind of feel like I set myself up to fail from it because I was like an
Right.
hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, plus my workouts, plus this, and I'm like, I'm adding up the
You're
hours.
getting
I'm like,
totally stressed out
oh
going, I
my
don't
gosh,
have enough time in the
so
day.
stressed.
Right.
So you know what? I've been like, and I've actually reached out to a couple of the people that were with me during that, and we're all feeling the same way. We're like, if we get in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or it doesn't matter, as long as you are still taking the time for you, like Amanda said, it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes that you're taking time for self-growth. And I can tell you, taking that time for self-growth this year, it has made me, my husband was sitting next to me. We were having breakfast with my uncle. And he said, can you tell a difference in Cindy? And he said, 180-degree difference. I can tell a difference because I've just done nothing but focus on working on myself. And it's made me a better person for me, but also a better partner, a better sister, a better friend. And
Right.
I feel like I just have the world to give, you know?
And the thing that we're talking about here is we're talking about creating a lifestyle and creating a practice, right? So that our personal development is it becomes, I call it a journey and I call it a practice and a lifestyle. It's not a check the box exercise. It's not, okay, I did that, now I'm done. We are continuous works in progress, and building these little opportunities and creating our routines that become our new habits, our new lifestyles, are what it's about. And it's how do we build in these little aspects on a daily basis? Because if we're working on it daily, then we're constantly progressing. No matter how small that step forward is, it's a step forward and it's progress. And it's progress, not perfection. And this is coming from a recovering perfectionist, which I will be my whole life. It gets in my way so often, and I have to keep reminding myself it's about progress. It's not about perfection. And so when I talk about the Swagger approach, Swagger is that acronym that helps people figure out what are those little areas that I can build in some of this personal growth and development into my life. So the Swagger acronym is self-worth. That's the SW. Then the A is appreciation for your strengths and limitations. The first G is gratitude for how your life experiences have helped shape who you are. The E is empowered to overcome self-limiting beliefs. And the R is renewed through a greater focus on your passion and purpose. And the book Claim Your Swagger takes you through the whole thing. And I'm actually getting ready to launch my very first learning journey called the Emerge Journey. And that is all surrounded around the Swagger approach and helping people build those aspects into their life through little activities, daily reinforcements. They will have an accountability partner, somebody to share this with. We're going to be doing live workshops twice a month, live coaching twice a month. And that's to get people on this new path of creating a different lifestyle and a different practice for themselves that builds this personal development in on a regular basis. It needs to be bite-sized, doable things that we can build into our lives. Otherwise, we're not going to do them.
We're not going to do it. I mean,
No.
I see it in my patients. Not that I don't like the word lazy, but it is kind of a
I think
laziness.
it's more, Cindy, we have habits and patterns that were already ingrained in us, right? And I mean, I use this example all the time because it's super easy to understand. So in the house we were in before in Pennsylvania, the faucet in the kitchen had one of those sensors under it. So I would just run my hand under the faucet, the water would turn on, and I'd run a hand under the faucet and it would turn off. When we moved to this new house in Connecticut, I physically have to turn the faucet on and off. It doesn't have one of those sensors, but I consistently saw myself putting my hand under the faucet for the longest time. Why? Because that was a behavioral pattern that had become a habit. And what do we need to do to shift those habits? We have to be intentional about them. We have to focus on changing and moving into that new pattern of behavior. The brain likes that path of least resistance. It's going to keep going back to what it's used to.
Just easy.
So I think for your, in that point, Cindy, it's not necessarily that they don't want to do these things. It's not easy to shift behavioral patterns. It takes intentionality and focus, and it also takes time. And we have to be a bit patient with ourselves because it's not just like flipping the light switch. You
right.
have to build that new pattern until it becomes that comfortable place that the brain will automatically go to.
Well,
I like how you talk about seeds, planting
Yes.
seeds.
planting the seed.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's one of my most favorite quotes. Actually, wait, I think
Yeah.
I have it. I have it like the quote right here, like on my little shelf over here about that. My brother bought that for me when I was building my business. Like one of my most favorite quotes.
I just did a newsletter. In fact, my newsletter this week that came out on Friday.
That's what you sent
Sense.
me, Cindy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. That's an
It's
issue.
planting seeds. Yeah.
I love it.
And it's those little
Yeah.
seeds that, and we may not necessarily see them bear fruit right away, but if we just keep planting the seeds, then when the environment's right, when the conditions are right, it's going to blossom.
It takes
Yeah.
21 days to create that habit, you know? So it's just being consistent. And you're right. It doesn't have to be something grand. It can just be, and I tell my patients all the time, you know, because I get calls, you know, on Monday usually, you know, that they've fallen off the wagon and that they've lost it on their nutrition. They're not, and I'm like, you know, you have to give yourself grace because to me it's easy because it's been my whole world and my whole world has been around nutrition and fitness and everything, but that's not the norm. You know, everybody's busy with their families and work. And so incorporating that in is really hard for them. And so I have to put myself in their shoes and I'm like, just give yourself grace, you know, because it's going to be okay. As long as you acknowledge it and you're aware of it and that habit doesn't
again.
continue.
Just start
That's
again.
It. That's
Just
it.
start again. It's okay. It doesn't mean the whole thing is out the window.
That's
you
it.
know, you've already made progress. Just, it's okay. Start again.
That's exactly right.
Take one step.
So Jennifer, let me ask you this. So what is, and I know that you and I have chatted about, and I've kind of brought Amanda up to speed. We've chatted about possibly for 2025, collaborating and doing a retreat. Because I think that we all have so much in common and I'm so excited for this. Like I love this podcast. I was super excited for our recording this morning. But what is your target audience moving forward in 2025? I know that you shifted your focus a bit. So tell us what that looks like for you for 2025.
So my focus, I took a bit, I didn't take an entire sabbatical like you, Cindy. I didn't take a whole year, but I did I called it going into my creative cocoon for a few months. And I needed to just recenter and just figure out who is it that I feel I could serve the best? Where could I have the greatest impact? And where do I feel called to serve? And it is women. So my focus before, I was looking at all walks of life, if you will, depending on however you want to identify with yourself. But now my focus is squarely on women. I think that's where my heart is, and that's where I'm being called to serve. And I do believe that people need to be in a certain place in their life to have had enough experiences to be able to reflect on and to be able to kind of do some of the work I'm asking them to do. So I would say I could probably go down as young as maybe 21-ish, but then all the way up into, I would say, mid 50s and maybe even all the way up to 60.
Well, I mean, because women are still working at that age, you
That's
know?
exactly right.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
And I'm keeping them healthy. So
that's right. So they're going to be
just
able to
keeping
do
them
more
out of
longer.
jail.
And
you're
she's
keeping them
out of
you're
jail.
keeping them out of
That's all I
jail.
got.
Yeah, exactly.
I was laughing. I told Amanda, I said, bringing you on as a co-host, and I'm just going to be like, hey, she's just keeping me in line, you know?
That's right.
Easy.
Okay, I know that we didn't ask any of the questions that I sent you last night because I was really hoping that we would just flow like this today, and it's been amazing. Give us, I love to end with, give us one piece of advice that you would leave us with today.
The one thing that there's two things I want to close with. One, I always like to close with this and say that if you did nothing else, And if you walked away with one thought, I want you to remember this, that you were born worthy. Your worth is innate. It's not something that somebody can give you, and it's not something that anybody else has power over. So it's a mindset shift of recognizing that you were born worthy, worthy of love, worthy of happiness, worthy of success, worthy of all of it. You already have that. It's innate in you. You just have to believe it. And the other thing that I would love to leave you with is my vision is to create a future and a world where every woman is the leader of her life.
I love that. I love that.
I love that too.
It's what we all need. One favorite quote?
I just came across one the other, well, I have lots of favorite quotes, but since I'm focused on this webinar for Thursday, this quote came across to me yesterday and I just thought it was great. So Madeleine Albright, she said, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women.
That's so true. I love it. Yeah, I love
And
it.
I thought that is a pretty powerful quote.
It is so good. Okay, so Jennifer, I'm going to post all your links on this podcast when I upload it to YouTube, so people will be able to find you there. Can you tell people how to get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Absolutely. So you can go to SwaggerU, that's the letter U because it's short for Swagger University. So it's SwaggerU.com. There's a quiz on there. They can take their swagger, check and see where their swagger is today. And it basically, the questions are designed to see how you feel about yourself and your life right now. And it doesn't matter what your score is or what answers come back, because you have to know your starting point before you can get to where you want to go. So that's the best place. There's also a place they can contact and reach out to me right there on the website. And then there's also, I am opening right now the priority wait list for the Emerge journey. So if people are interested in that, then that is on the website, swaggeru.com. And I think it's _ Emerge journey or Emerge wait list.
Love it. And she's on all social media, and I'll make sure that I post all of that for you as well. Amanda, I've had so much fun today having you on. I hope you have.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's been great.
It has been fun.
Since I got the camera working.
I love it. I know as soon as we got on, she goes, I don't know how to get my camera working. I'm like,
she's like, what am I
It's okay.
doing? This may not be a good idea.
It's perfect because it's real. It's real life.
I love it.
It's real life.
I love it. Jennifer, thanks for taking the time with us.
Oh, thank you so much.
I adore you.
This was just such a pleasure. I'm so grateful to be able to do this. So thank you for inviting me.
I'm so thankful that I picked up your book last year and read it, and you and I became friends. I love your journey, and I love the direction that you're going into, and I'm happy to be a part of it. So
well, we are going to do great things. I'm convinced.
I look forward to it. Okay, well, I will get
so much,
this
Amanda.
published, and thank you guys so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, guys.
You too.